Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a rather thick Zotac GTX 1070 Ti. Okay then peeps, so yes, we are going to take a look at the 1070 Ti from Zotac, but it is the Amp Extreme and it is monstrous. So it's 2.5 slot, pretty much 3 slot if I'm honest. Now a lot of people might moan about this being like too big for SLI and stuff, but to be honest with you, SLI does seem to be dying off now. So the bigger cards do make sense. Now the big card, you can see that the cooler on it is absolutely enormous, and I will talk to you about temps in a minute. But the only thing that I don't particularly like about it is the back plate, because they put yellow on it and it reminds me of the MSI Lightning cards. Now the fact that it reminds me of the MSI Lightning cards isn't a bad thing, but it's just the fact that every time I saw one of those cards I moaned about the yellow, and all of this underneath here is RGB, so it does kind of ruin it a bit unless you're going to be doing a Fallout mod, because it's got kind of a, as you can see, kind of like an industrial kind of look to it. This is RGB as well. I'm not even sure about the push to limit stuff on the back if I'm honest, but you've got the massive power boost cap on the back as well, and it did overclock really well. Again, we will talk about that in a minute. Well, actually we'll talk about it now. So I ended up getting 2075 out of it for a peak, which gave us almost 2000 megahertz as an average. Now the average is critical. Open GPU-Z, okay. Now what you need to do is you need to do a stock run first, and then you need to test your overclocks later, but you need to, I use Unigine because it just loops and you have to do it for exactly the same amount of time each test. But the way we do it is we give about 30 minutes on Unigine, and we have GPU-Z open, we have another one open, you click sensors and you go down for all the core and the temperatures and the fan speed and keep clicking, and you'll see they change minimum, max and average, and it will store the maximum or the average or the minimum. So you do that, and then you open another one, and just for the core speed you click that to average, and then you run your tests. And the average is the big one, because as I've said in a lot of videos, you could have one which was doing 2100 megahertz, but then your average would be about like 1900 and the scores have plummeted. Whereas with this, it was just shy of 2000 megahertz with a 2075 megahertz peak, which is kind of about right. We couldn't really give it any much more power, and it was the best scores that we managed to get out of it. If we went any further, the scores actually started to drop off, because that's another thing that I do keep saying, but I'm genuinely trying to help you guys out, in that if you overclock them too much, it may still be stable, but the performance actually gets worse. So you have to make sure you find the top of the curve of performance and not keep going too far and end up actually reducing your performance. And then if you do that too much and you play with it too much, when you do knock your clocks back, you actually will end up with lower performance, because if you push them too far for too long, it does seem to just ruin the overall performance. It takes the kind of shine off the top for a bit. Well, permanently really. So you do need to keep that in mind. Anyway, so it's massive. It's 3 fans. It's 2 8-pins rather than 1. The Strix was only 1 8-pin on there. You get the DVI around the back, and you get 3 display ports and a HDMI. You can see I've still got the covers on it. And it is enormous. It doesn't droop that much either, thankfully, but the cooler did an amazing job. Despite me chucking my remote on the floor, did an amazing job, and it was 58 degrees and we battered it to try and get it to that point. So it did exceptionally well. It was even cooler than the Strix. So I was very, very impressed with the cooler performance and the oral performance as well. Now you can go to the OC3D website, sorry, courier delivery. So please go and have a look on the OC3D website. We've got loads more games going on there. There's loads more testing. You can see we always embed the video there as well. It's actually an easier place to keep up with the videos. If you're one of those unlucky people that don't know when my videos are coming out, just keep checking on the website. But anyway, so you can go look at all of the performance there. But we'll start off with Deus Ex, which kind of goes in the middle of the graph, but it's done well in comparison to the other 1070 Ti's. Gears of War, it did really, really well on compared to most things, to be fair, because it's even gone above some of the 1080s. But there's a weird one, and this is something that I did want to cover, and we know this is affecting NVIDIA graphics cards. We don't know if it's going to be affecting AMD at the moment because we've not had a chance to test it. But with the Game of the Year update for Hitman, it seems to have had a massive effect on performance. So we were getting, let's have a look, we were getting like, in 1080p, we were getting like 131 frames, and now we're getting like 90 frames. And it does seem to be, because we've had a little bit of a sniff around online, it does seem to be they've done something with the CPU utilisation, in that it's not using your CPU fully, and the performance is kind of down, and there's talk about it not seeing as many cores as it used to. Before it was able to do 6 cores, and now they're on about it might only be 4. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So if you play Hitman regularly, then you may have noticed that you've had a bit of a drop in frames. So we've given you this graph so that we can show you how bad it's been, but this isn't a problem with the card, this is a problem with the game itself and an update, and we're hoping that they're going to patch it soon, because otherwise it's going to make my life hell. I mean, this isn't even all of the cards that we've tested it with. So yeah, it's a bit of a, yeah, it's not done me any favours. So overall, the card has done exceptionally well. It did overclock very, very well. It stayed cool, it stayed calm, it stayed collected. The only bad thing that I've really got to say about it is there's 2 sides to the coin. So we've got the RGBs around here, which I can bring up and I can show you them all changing and looking nice. There are, you know, these RGBs, they do look kind of cool. I like the fact that the plastic over the top is crystal and it's quite evenly matched and stuff. But the problem is if you put it onto a rainbow mode, it actually changes the colour and fades out completely between each one, and that was something I wasn't particularly keen on. Most of the other ones, they change colour between them. If you're going to go with a single colour though, then that you're not going to have any issues, but you can change the bit in the middle, the Zotac logo, independently from the outside ones, and that's all nice. The only other thing that I've really got that I don't particularly like about it is the yellow. And that's just with the RGB, it doesn't. But if you don't like RGB and you like yellow, it's not going to matter. But I'm trying to fight everyone's corner with this one. So there's a couple of, you know, the RGB kind of fade thing. They probably could sort that out with a firmware update. The aesthetic side of it is always going to be personal. You could wrap the back quite easily. You could paint it if you were brave, but you do have to take all of the cooler off to do it. Now I'm not seeing, and I am looking at the moment, I've not seen any warranty stickers on any of the screws, so you might be lucky. But the thing to think about is if you paint it, then it's going to be quite clearly, you know, you're making massive changes to it. So I don't know, maybe you could make a cover for it or something. I don't really know. I know personally that yellow would drive me nuts unless I was making a dedicated yellow and sort of like whatever sort of themed rig, yellow and black maybe. So the long and short of it is we gave it the performance award because it was a cracking little card, and the temperatures and the noise just kind of spoke for themselves, and because we did manage to get quite a healthy overclock out of it, it did very well in most of the graphs as well. It's pretty much beaten all of the other 1070 Ti's at the moment, and it was harping on the heels of a lot of the 1080s as well, and that's one of the reasons why NVIDIA didn't want them to go out of factory overclocks, because, you know, that's what can happen. Anyway, cracking little card. It's nice to do a different brand for a change as well. I would love to hear your thoughts underneath. And if you would like to discuss this product, then don't forget you can go to the OC3D forums, where there is a dedicated thread for every review that we do. And if you'd like to go and chat with some like-minded members, then you can do. This has been me. Has been me? What?